I moved in last November, and
Right.
there's
Hi,
still
everybody, by the
crap
way.
that there's
Go ahead.
Let Steve say hi to
there's
people.
there's still crap that the previous owners of the house just left piled up everywhere.
Okay.
In the like on the second floor, it's like a whole room of like old VHS tapes and stuff. And
That sounds promising.
Yeah.
so after living here for almost a year, look what I dug up.
The house just left.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
second floor. It's like old.
Somebody's got the video.
Somebody's got
going,
their
'cause I
video
can hear
playing,
the
by the
delay.
way.
So after living here for almost a year,
We're hearing ourselves back in the.
Somebody's got
in
their
the
video
past.
playing and needs to mute it. There. Ooh, was that it? There we go.
Yep, it's the real thing.
Hanging out
Cooler
with friends
if
online.
it was beta.
That is awesome.
Assuming
Yeah, exactly.
assuming nobody recorded over this. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
great what you can find in an old house.
That's very cool.
I think I may have had that back in the day. I think that I may have had one of those editions of Star Trek 2.
Did we?
Yeah.
I definitely know that like our old house when we did have those VHS, we had all the VHSs of like the first 6 Star Trek movies for sure. Yes.
Oh, I had
Well,
I had
I-
that box set of all 6. Yeah. Yeah.
I can beat you on that, though.
I have that
can't,
now.
Because I
box
have
set,
all
and then
6 in Laserdisc.
I knew you.
And
Somehow
still
I knew
have
you were
them
going to say
on
that.
play.
I knew
Well, see-
you were
see,
going to
see-
say you had them on Laserdisc.
Well, one thing I a friend of mine got a hold of, before or just around the time that Star Trek 4 was going into theaters, I guess the family had a friend who worked for Paramount, and he had like a mid-production copy that didn't have all the special effects.
Holy shit! I want.
So
that
we were watching it at home, and there were certain parts where I guess what they had, like the scenes that they filmed that were there were not that many, but the scenes that they filmed really quick in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, where they were like on the street.
So apparently, well, no, actually, when they were in Starfleet headquarters, like that part of stuff.
Oh, sure, okay.
So apparently, like they didn't do a green screen with that; they just would do a matte, and so. We're watching the scene and the characters are doing stuff, and you could see the grips and the boom guys and the whole production people. They're in the shot that were basically matted out later, and we're like, this was so weird because you could see like crew members like, on the sides of the screen.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Since
I
we're
ask you
talking
because you
about
don't think of that
cool
of all the
finds
Star
here-
Trek movies. That's one that has probably some of the least special effects.
Right.
Yeah, because it's mostly shot live and
Okay.
on location.
Yeah.
Does Steve
Madeline's
wanna say
trying to
hi to
show us
people?
something. Hang on.
Yeah, sorry. It's things that I found in the in the free pile by local like used bookstores. It's like these like 90s like sci-fi magazines, and this one is awesome because it's like has this whole interview for like Babylon 5 before it aired. So there's like all this concept art and everything. And I just wanted to show you like the original concept art for like. So you got like Jakar there, you got the no, I think those are the Vorlon. Londo, which I think is like the absolute like the character looks so different, but they captured him totally.
Wait, is the one that looks like David Bowie supposed to be Londo?
That's supposed to be Londo there, like with the gambling and everything.
Oh, I'm wondering who the person with the green thing across their face is.
Okay.
Babylon 5 has some of the best spaceship designs I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
You really do feel alien.
The original too.
Also,
And they also make logical sense, particularly the Earth ships.
My
Yeah.
favorite thing about
With
it
the
is,
rotating sections.
The rotating sections and the Star Furies with the multiple
like,
different
okay, I don't know
direction
if
jets.
you can read that, but it's just like JMS saying like you're not going to be able to tell that the CGI effects are even computer generated.
But what I mean is like, even as much as I love Star Trek, if you compare a Romulan warbird and a Klingon warbird, they're not all that different. It's really just different proportions. But Babylon 5 went crazy with its alien ship
fuck yeah.
designs.
They totally did.
They
yeah.
really do feel like
And
they were
it's all
made by a
CGI.
completely different culture on a different world.
No physical models.
And as far as Londo being a little different, I think Straczynski has told the story that they did his hair as a goof. Like they were playing a prank. He told the makeup people to play a prank on Peter Jurasik and say, just make his hair go really big and high. And he actually liked it. And it was like, oh no, this is great. Straczynski, are you sure?
It's like when
The
you
story
first
that
see it, you're like,
Jurassic
so
tells
what were they
about how,
thinking?
like-
But then you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, this actually works.
Once you get used to it, it's perfect.
yeah.
I love this. What I really enjoy is the story about how Jurassic always tells the story that every season when he had to go back to start filming again, the way he would get back into character would just be like to just walk up and go, Mr. Garibaldi.
That's how you find the voice. That's it.
Mr. Garibaldi.
My dear Mr. Garibaldi.
Did you guys ever hear of how Stephen first got the job as Lear?
I
don't think so.
No.
So what happened is he went to to the casting call, and by this point they'd already established that that they were going to have the wacky hair. So he got there, and everybody else who showed up for the audition had their hair done up, and he didn't. So he went to the bathroom and was trying to do something with water and everything, and it was just all a mess. And then he came out and he was like really flustered, and they were like, okay, and he's like trying to explain. He's like, oh, and I didn't think, and I tried to, and he was hemming and hawing and jumping up, falling over his words, and they're like, that's it. And then he's like, oh, he's like, no, wait, give me a chance. He goes, no, you don't understand. You got the job. You are Veer. Because that was just his natural way of being. So they were like, "Hey, you got
That's
the
awesome.
job."
You do a good Veer impression, actually. You would be a good Veer. You would be a good
that is a
Veer.
good Veer impression. And Isaiah,
Thank
I'll get to Isaiah in a second, but I just wanted to say you just reminded me of the story of how Richard Dean Anderson got the part as MacGyver. Was that when he came in to read for it, the producers really liked how he reached into his backpack to get his eyeglasses. It was something as subtle as that. Like he needed his glasses for something, and just there was something about his body motion, his body language, the way he reached into his backpack to get his eyeglasses, and the producers were like, "That's the guy." It seems so silly, but that was what sold them on him. Anyway, Isaiah, you had your hand up.
Oh yeah, I was just saying when it came to like VHS Star Trek movies, I have that box set, and then I have Generations, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis all on VHS in addition to that.
Nice.
I don't think I think I may have had Generations, and I think I had Generations and First Contact on VHS, but those were the only
Probably
TNG movies
same
I
here,
ever
too.
had on VHS. I think after that
Yeah.
everything was DVD, and I never got them.
Yeah,
on VHS.
right in that period was when I was making the transition to DVD myself, and then had another transition when Blu-ray came out.
I think
I had some of the original cast movies, but none of the next generation.
I think my dad has like a VHS of. We gave our dad a VHS of Insurrection though, but I was like, I don't know if we got like a Nemesis, and I don't know if we even get on. No, we did get it for him on DVD because like my dad's one of those difficult people to like buy things for. So it's just like here, the Star Trek DVD or a James Bond DVD, or it's just like we don't know what you get to, so here you go.
Well, my first DVD was South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. So that would have been
that's a great movie. My mom loves that movie.
That would have been like 2000.
Uncut sounds like some kind of circumcision joke.
Yes,
that's actually intentional. That was intentional.
Because the original title of the movie was going to be All Hell Breaks Loose.
Yes, and you can't have hell in the title.
And the studio said we don't want hell in the title, so they said
no.
Okay.
I think it was the MPAA. I think
the MPAA. Well, yeah, it was like a rating thing. Yeah. And so they said, okay, how about this? And it's literally a dick joke, but they got that through. They were like, okay.
Well, the other funny part too is that they had some more sex stuff in there, and the MPAA cared about that. They purposely amped up the violence because they figured that would be the stuff that they would cut out to make the MPAA happy, and they didn't cut any. And then MPAA didn't ask them to cut any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wait. They thought the MPAA would ask them to cut the violence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny to me how easy it is to make innuendo out of things. Anything could be a double entendre if you work hard enough. Even double entendre, that can mean two dicks.
Double entendre.
As Tom Lear says, when correctly viewed, everything is lewd.
Tom Lear, yeah. From Smut.
Steve, the thing I sent you the other day, that fake DS9
yes.
scene.
Oh god, the voices on that were perfect. Yeah.
Okay. That whole scene, it just made me like look back at all my favorite moments from DS9 and realize that more than any other Star Trek series, DS9 is a comedy.
Yes. And it does comedy better, I think, than any other show has. I think I'm going to talk about that, and when I do that video next month, that the comedy DS9 gets comedy right.
The best
more than
scenes,
any other show, I think.
I gotta mention this because it runs right into that topic.
Sure.
Last night, my girlfriend was over, and she's watched Star Trek on and off here and there, and she's kind of starting to get into Next Generation now, and kind of rewatching it and all that. And so she's like, and because it's not as serialized as other shows, she kind of jump around a little bit. And she saw that I had, like, in Netflix, I'd watched all of them at one point. So they all show with the red bar at the bottom. And I'm going through it, I'm skipping, and we get to the Royale, and it had not been watched. And she's like, why didn't you watch that one? And I'm trying to explain, like, the basic premise of the episode, talking about, like, all this, the NASA astronaut got stuck there and for hundreds of years and all this. And he's like, that doesn't sound goofy. Because you're saying, I was telling her it's really goofy.
Oh, just you wait.
Yeah, the Royale.
And she's like, let's watch it. And then she looks at me and goes, okay, that was goofy.
Yeah.
The Royale is to Star Trek TNG what Gray 17 is missing is to Babylon 5.
Oh, yeah.
Or in
Anyway,
fact,
Joe, you've had your hand up forever. What do you got?
Swinging back to the Richard Dean Anderson story you told.
Oh, yeah.
I must have heard that story before because I have a weird Mandela effect memory of that story. But what do you call it? Instead of it just being the action of him pulling the glasses that did it, that his glasses were held together with, like, makeshift with rubber bands and
masking tape,
popsicle sticks.
That might have been part of it. I don't remember. I think it's on the special features of one of the DVDs of.
I bet his glasses were held together with a paperclip because when I brought the screw and
duct tape and baling wire.
Yeah,
yeah, I've done that plenty of times.
In theory, it probably is just what you said, but in my brain, I must have rewrote it as the story of him.
He had MacGyver glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah. So, I was going to say something. Oh, about Deep Space Nine and comedy. CMAC brought up. I think one of the things about it that makes it work so much better than other Star Trek shows.
That was Nick, but still,
is that it doesn't do Mickey Mousing with the music, like the music,
yes.
Or even on TNG, which. It was okay when it did comedy. Like, it wasn't, like, guaranteed to be awful, right?
The Vosh episodes were fun.
The Vosh episodes were fun, but they got this from the original Star Trek. The original Star Trek did this all the time. They would do Mickey Mousing with the music, where whenever something funny happened, there'd be a funny little music cue to let you know that was a funny part. And yeah, they're like Kirk, they would do at the end of the episodes a lot when they would have the little banter back and forth with Kirk and Spock and McCoy to kind of wrap things up. And, McCoy would say something to Spock and Spock would do
an eyebrow raise and
raise. Yeah. Or like a Jack Benny take, and
wow.
And they would do and the music would be like, dun, da, dun, dun, da, da, da. It's like, oh, it's funny.
Oh,
just so we know it's funny, and that gets on my nerves. I hate that so much. It's the musical equivalent of a laugh track. Yeah, it's the musical like, this is the funny part. You should laugh. And Deep Space Nine doesn't do that nearly as often. I don't know if it ever does it.
I will say that's something that's, and maybe I consider myself like a music person generally, but not, I guess, a score person, because I will notice like a really excellent score, but if something is not done well, I don't know if I pick up that it's not done well, or if it just lowers my general enjoyment of this thing, and I don't know why.
Well, when we were talking about The Princess Bride before we went on the air, and I mentioned one of the things I wish about the movie was that they had sprung for a proper score. Like the synthesizer score, really brings that movie down for me. Like it makes it feel cheap. It makes it feel like, and I don't mean this as an insult to this show, because I really like this show, but it makes it seem like an episode of Fairy Tale Theater. It's like and it's a movie.
And I think that was a deliberate choice. I mean, one of the things that they said about it was they weren't sure how to market it, like exactly what they were going for. And I think they were going for that sort of, because it's not a movie that's like for kids. But they were going for sort of a nostalgia effect, I think is part of it. And I think that's the wrong choice. I think that the better choice is to play it straight. that this is an adventure story. This is a story with a lot of heart. Just play it completely earnest. And then if you're going to have the frame story, have that be more dramatic and more realistic as a contrast. But to play the story of the Princess Bride as, the good parts version, which, supposedly it is, at least in the book. And in the movie, it's not actually, that's not included. And I think what they were going for was the nostalgia effect of an adult looking back on something from their childhood and noticing the chintzy bits, but still at the same time cherishing them. And I don't think on a first viewing that comes through. And I think that's part of why it did so poorly in the theaters.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's clearly an intentional choice by the creators. Like, I don't think they ran out of money and they were like, what are we going to do about the score? Let's just have Steve play it on his Casio. Like, I think, it was an intentional choice. I just don't think it works. Anyway, Lauren, you had your hand up.
Oh. Yeah. As it comes to soundtracks, one of my sort of pet peeves is what happened between the first couple of Harry Potter movies and what came after that, when for whatever reason John Williams dealt himself out. John Williams, I mean, his work a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, is number one, it's very identifiable, and number two, he writes very iconic music. I mean, in a lot of cases, you will know him the second you hear him. He has very identifiable chops. And then they started shuffling off to other different composers, and theirs was more film music than anything else. And to me, it had very little personality.
No.
It's a very kind way of saying he recycles the themes that he steals from older.
Thank you very, very much. Because
these are serious as doggies.
Pissed me the hell off because it is not directly cribbed, but it's so derivative of Hook, which is it's oh gosh.
Yeah, there is a lot of derivation there, of course, but then Hook derives from Witches of Eastwick. And somewhat, yeah. I mean, but a lot of the
but there are also other parallels that you can see between some of the other movies, and some of that is style. I have a friend who's complaining about all the Lin-Manuel Miranda stuff and how it sounds similar, and I'm like, some of that is just that's the sort of thing that they do.
That's his style.
I mean,
what was interesting to me though was at the end of Deathly Hallows Part 2, they come back to platform 9 3/4, and bang, there's the original John Williams theme, and the contrast is like day and night, and it's jarring. I mean, I love to hear it. I love to come back to that, but I mean, it is jarring after hearing, film, what essentially was film music by comparison.
Yeah. The main Harry Potter theme is action music from Indiana Jones at half tempo.
Yes, it is. Totally.
You know the old joke about there only being 6 stories and everything is just a variation on that. John Williams just wrote a score for those 6 stories and just variations off of those scores.
Yeah. Every pop song is like only 4 chords, and like each pop song is a variation on those 4 chords.
Well, you don't want to say that too loud around the Beatles.
Well, I'm sure.
That doesn't apply just to pop songs. It's like songs.
Everything.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm sure everybody has seen. There's a couple of videos on YouTube where they were showing how samey all the new country is, and they took excerpts from several different songs and spliced them together, and you can't tell that they didn't belong together because they're all the same key. They're all the rhythm's the same, the beat's
tempo,
the same, and it's the same instruments, and it's just like. And even the subject matter, whether they're talking about a love thing or I lost my job or whatever, it all meshes together because it's all based on a formula, and the formula produces the same garbage crap. But with John Williams, I mean, what he likes to do is, he makes themes about either certain characters or like in Star Wars, he has the Force theme, and so of course the score is several combinations of the various themes mixed together in different tempos and different instruments and stuff like that. And that's the whole point, is to get the mood. So like there's actually a Darth Vader theme. It's not the Imperial March, but there is actually a Darth Vader theme. And there's Princess Leia had a theme, the Force had a theme, Luke had a theme. And so then as the series progresses, he comes up with additional ones, but then of course still melds in the other ones.
Yeah. Madeline, you have your hand up.
So I just wanted to, like, you were saying that you don't like the goofy music, but I have to say, like, one of the things that, like, in The Trouble with Tribbles versus Trials and Tribulations, the bar fight scene, like, the stark difference in the music is, in the original series, it's just really goofy music, but then in, like, in Trials and Tribulations, they decide to go with this really over the top, like, serious, like, boating music, and I have no idea why they did that, because I think that's probably one of the worst things that episode did. But
yeah,
there's like a goofy bar fight scene, and it sounds like it's like this big space battle music.
They're trying to make it sound too epic. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Well, what I'm about to say, it might. Oh, I was just gonna say what. Sorry. Just go ahead.
Nick, no, Nick, go ahead.
I thought I was interrupting everybody else. Okay, sorry. So what I'm about to say, I might just be pulling this out of my ass. It's just stuff that I've heard over the years. But supposedly, like, okay, why like so many movies from the 80s, sometimes even the 70s, 90s, early 2000s had these really memorable themes, not just like composed by John Williams, but all these musicians at the time. And nowadays, it tends to just be pretty typical, like dun 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 dun, dun kind of like typical movie music. Supposedly,
that's Mission Impossible.
Supposedly, no,
sorry about that.
Supposedly, from my understanding, there is more pressure from studios to not make the music in movies too good, not make the melodies too memorable, because it'll distract from the movie. It'll take people out of the immersion and remind them that they're watching a movie and that they're not actually there. So you just want the mood music to, fill in the gaps, but not really grab anybody's attention.
But clearly nobody's ever watched The Godfather.
Yeah. To which I have to say, tell it to Hans Zimmer. Because his last couple of tracks have been some of the most brilliant work I've ever heard out of anybody, to the point where I found myself compelled to collect the tracks.
I mean, the thing about it too is, I mean, I really like the whole thing of immersion. I think it's bullshit. I think it gets way overplayed.
The music can bring you into the immersion.
Sure, but exactly. It can help convey emotion. But I mean, like, to the point where some people get so over the top with it. They were talking about the movie Highlander yesterday in a thread I saw on Facebook, and one guy he just really can't. He just incensed that because Sean Connery was trying to do a Spanish accent. He's terrible at it, and then you got a French dude trying to do a Scottish accent. I'm like, okay, you're okay with like immortal beings running around, cutting, killing each other and cutting their heads off, but because the accents are off a bit, that destroys the movie.
I'm totally out of it.
Really?
I will say that I don't think like when you talk about if you were to remove the score from The Godfather and watch that, I mean, it's already a long movie. But I think you will want to claw your eyeballs out it.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's just like I remember one of the first comedies that were supposed to be a comedy on TV that didn't have a laugh track was Murphy. Not Murphy Brown. It was I forget the name of it. I remember the show, but anyway, like it was supposed to be a comedy.
MASH.
No, MASH had a laugh track.
MASH had,
initially it had a laugh track. It lost like the third or fourth season.
Only some episodes.
But it depends on the episode. But yeah, like Geek said, but it was like the adventures. It was basically a TV show about some single woman in New York City, and it didn't have a laugh track, and it didn't last because basically like the beats didn't land because. There's a lot of TV shows. If you took the laugh track away, a lot of the jokes just don't land as much. There's something about the laugh track that.
Well, actually, I just this weekend, an example of this. I was watching, as you all know, I'm Iranian American, and I'm a big fan of the comedian stand-up Maz Jobrani.
Yeah.
He put out a special that just came out called Pandemic Warrior. And it was filmed in Dubai before the pandemic started, and he didn't feel right putting it out because it's supposed to be called Peaceful Warrior. Anyway, not the point. He filmed it in Dubai, and if you know his comedy, it's a lot about the the immigrant experience, particularly the Iranian American immigrant experience, but it speaks to a whole bunch of particularly non-European immigrant experience to this country. And he's doing this in Dubai, and he wanted to do it to show that everybody laughs and everybody enjoys stuff, even if it's, in a Middle Eastern place with mostly Arab audience as opposed to a mostly Iranian American audience. And he went, and he went there. I don't know if they just didn't mic up the place properly, but like the jokes that he was doing were funny, but they were very much from an American context about the American immigrant experience. And the people in the audience hadn't immigrated to the US. So it was like, it didn't have the context for the joke. And it just didn't. So as a viewer of that, I didn't feel it was as funny because the audience wasn't laughing as much.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's amazing how, like, if you're watching something that was performed live in front of an audience and the audience that's there isn't reacting, even if you think it's funny, like it can affect your opinion. Like I watched something on Thanksgiving. Jason actually sent me a video. He sent me this video on Thanksgiving morning. He was like, "Here's your Thanksgiving present," and I was like, "What the hell is this?" So I click on it, and it's a YouTube video of the 1985 Macy's parade, and they had a He-Man float. And he sent me a video of the He-Man float, and they do like, it was one of the deals where like they stop in front of Macy's, and they do like a little thing, right? They do like a little play where like the guy playing He-Man runs out and fights the guy playing Skeletor, and there's all these different people in character costumes running around doing stuff, and they stop for 5 minutes and they put on this little play, right? And there's no reaction from the people. Like there's no laughing, there's no cheering, there's like, it's just playing to just airless, baffled silence. and it's already kind of goofy. I mean, it's not good on its own. It's just it's like ice capade stuff. Like it's like, okay, it is what it is.
It's a He-Man skit, for God's sake.
Yeah, a He-Man skit, and obviously a very low budget. I mean, it was the Macy's parade, so they spent some money on it, but it's not. It's guys in foam costumes playing with swords and stuff. But the fact that it got no reaction at all made it feel even worse, where it was like, oh God, I feel so, like, I hope that they were making noise and we just couldn't hear it on the broadcast, maybe because they were outdoors, but like it got nothing. And it was like, oh Jesus, this seems like this just fucking bombed. Like these people standing out in the cold, and they were like, what the hell is this? Where's Santa? Anyway, Isaiah, you've had your hand up for forever, and then a couple other people have their hands up too. So what you got, Isaiah?
I'm gonna put my Christmas tree up today, and I'm gonna probably, since we're talking about soundtracks, I was gonna play Star Trek 4 soundtrack in my Star Trek uniform, since I've always thought Star Trek 4, either Star Trek 4 or Generations, has good like Christmas sounding music.
Yeah, that's a good. And I don't know. I've never thought of it as Christmas music, but I guess it makes sense because it did come out Thanksgiving weekend. But
no Mariah Carey. What?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna play Mariah Carey too. Actually, I'm
gonna play King Diamond.
I just actually posted in the chat a Mariah. The All I Want for Christmas Is Q. The Mariah Carey.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now, which Q are we talking about? Are we talking about John Delancey, or are we talking about QAnon?
John Delancey.
Let's be clear here.
Or James Bond Q.
How pissed do you think John Delancey is about the whole QAnon thing? He's like, they are stepping on my shit. People are going to think about Q, and they're going to think about that instead of my shit.
I was down in South Carolina for Thanksgiving week.
You probably started it. It seems like a very cute prank.
And I was driving behind this car, and I live in Philly, and so I'm in my own little liberal bubble here. But I was visiting my folks who live down in South Carolina, and we were driving to the Savannah airport, and there was a car in front of us, and the license plate said Q space teen. And I'm like looking at this, and I'm like, what do you think? Is this Q? Is this a QAnon person? What's going on here? And my mom's like, no, they must think cute teen or something like that. And then we pull up next to it, and we pull up next to the car, and it's a upper middle-aged white woman with big blonde hair.
Oh god!
And I'm like, that's got to be Q. That's got to be QAnon.
Yeah, you can tell.
But there were no other stickers on the car, though. There were there were no bumper stickers. There's nothing else. There's just a license plate.
Just the
thing. You don't want to ask either because if you get a QAnon, they'd be like, "Ooh, you want to know about the storm?"
Like, no, we don't want to know anything. Julian, go ahead.
I was going to say, the observation that we laugh much more vigorously in groups, right?
Yeah,
you'll laugh out loud much more when you see a comedy in the theater. The more sort of plausible sort of evolutionary theory I've seen of kind of the origin of laughter is that it's a kind of all clear signal, like something is apparently wrong or amiss, but actually it's fine. Which is why some animals have kind of laughing equivalents that they use when play fighting. So the animals, this is just for training. Or sparring, and this is why we laugh when we're tickled, right? Like, oh, someone's got their hands on me, but I'm not actually being injured. And so, in a sense, right, laughter, if this is right, has its evolutionary function is a social signal. So, like, laughing alone, watching something in your room is kind of a spandrel. It's like a kind of residue, right? You would be primed to laugh when you're in a group because the function of it is to signal something, hey, it's okay. It's just.
They also think that having that's like just the literal sound, but they think having a sense of humor may be necessary for the development of intelligent species because it means they can appreciate context. And there are some animals like dolphins and crows that really have a sense of humor.
Well, the other thing too is there are other things, right? Like yawning, or that's another social signal, or everyone singing along to horrible Jimmy Buffett music. I believe that nobody actually likes Jimmy Buffett, but it's just one of these social things that we do that signals that we're all part of the group.
Hey, when you're at the bar, you're all drunk, you're all going to sing. Yeah, even at a rock bar where everyone hates the song, the people claim that they hate "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. They all sing along to it at the bar when it's on the jukebox.
Oh, by the way, the dog I had a minute ago with the pink collar, that was Lily. Okay. And this is Mr. Nemo.
Hello,
Mr. Nemo.
So there are our new family members. They've been with us since early September.
Terrific.
Cute
That's
dogs.
Awesome.
Doggies. Wonderful.
So I wanted to if you're done, seriously, I want to bring up, speaking of musicals or music as it were, Stephen Sondheim died just recently.
Just a couple days ago.
Because if you don't know, he's was best known as a composer and lyricist for A Fun Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which I was in my high school production of that. And by the way, I was one of the eunuchs, and I did not realize this until my friend Kevin pointed out. I was like, no wonder that genderqueer, non-binary Jonathan played a gender non-conforming character in high school, and I was just like, oh my God! How come it took me so long to realize I'm not cis? Then again, it's like the gender nonconformity was forced onto eunuchs back then, so it's kind of like, But yeah, he also did Company for West Side Story.
He wrote the lyrics for West Side Story, which is, and he just died this week. That's amazing to think.
When I heard 91. He died,
it's
one of those awful feelings where, when he heard he died, I was like, he was still alive?
The dude who wrote the lyrics to West Side Story was still alive?
So it's not like that's one of those sad stories, hearing news that someone that age died, because 91, he lived a long life, he had a good life, as it were. Or it's when someone's younger than a 70 or something like that, that's more of a tragedy, because they could have continued on living, as it were.
Actually, Rita Moreno, who was in West Side Story, is still alive, and she's looks amazing, and she looks amazing. She's still lucid and not she's
not just that. She is going to play a female Doc in Steven Spielberg's production of West Side Story. I've seen the trailer. And
which tells you absolutely nothing.
Well, it's West Side Story. We get it.
It tells me a couple of things. Number one, the dancing is going to be killer. The dancing is going to be killer without a doubt. And just the overall sense of it, I have my doubts about Spielberg and dealing with it. I'm not sure I got any doubts anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he has a handle on it.
What they do, because they have the original. They have the original choreography.
Well, the question is, are they sticking with the original choreography?
Yes.
And in places, it does not look like.
It says
I would just like
if
to
you look
point
at the
out that
credits,
YouTube
it's got
is
the
missing.
original
If they've got Jerome Robbins in there, then yeah. But I mean, there's still going to be some variations on that theme. I'd bet on it.
I'd just like to point out that YouTube was missing the wonderful choreography between Geek and I.
well, one thing that's really cool
Yes.
too is it's going to be, because I think it's supposed to hit before the end of the year, so it'll be it'll be almost exactly 60 years between the two releases.
Yeah, I'm really I doubt that I'll make it out to a theater to see it. I'm going to a theater to see Spider-Man, and that's really the only movie coming out anytime soon that I'm going to be like, I'll risk getting a deadly disease to see it. But
there's a new variant.
But like I'm curious about the new West Side Story. I assume it'll be up streaming, not too long after it gets into theaters, because that's kind of just the way things work now. But so I will probably watch it out of curiosity, because I do want to see if it has any sort of merit on its own, or if it's just Spielberg crossing something off his bucket list. Because because he's had a great career as a director. He's been, and he's, deservedly so, a legendary filmmaker. He's never done a proper musical. And I feel like this is him sort of saying, like, I only got a few more of these in me. I'm getting old. I don't know how many more movies I'm going to be able to make, and I'm going to do a goddamn movie musical before I'm done. And
he's not getting the EGOT.
and Steve, almost try to go through a list of the very few entertainment sort of projects Steven Spielberg hasn't done. Because he's also done like hit kid television shows.
Oh yes.
And he did 1941, which is a great movie. But to your point about not risking going out, Steve.
Yeah.
I went out. You know Odie, right?
I think so. Yeah. So she and I and Suzanne and our friend Dana, we went out to see the Eternals when it came out, and then within day and. I'm sure it was there, because I really don't ever leave the house anymore. I got a cellulitis and the flu within days of going out to the movie. And at first, because the normally when I get a cellulitis, I usually recognize the symptoms. I usually the area that's affected gets itchy and sore. And I that happened. I didn't put two and two together. So the infection had a chance to take hold. So when I usually get a cellulitis, if the infection takes hold, the symptoms are chills, sweats, fever, and on top of it, the flu, I had coughing and congestion. And I'm like, holy shit, I got COVID, because there's everything all hit at once. And then, but then I realized that it was a cellulitis. But yeah, that freaked me out. But I did actually have to take the rapid antigen test just to be sure. So yeah, so I'm gonna risk for Spider-Man, because that movie's gonna be like off the chain, as some people say, and because it looks amazing and crazy. But yeah, other than that, I'm like, I'm like,
I really am starting to follow on just the one thing Sears Minded said. When I got my flu shot last year, before we had the COVID vaccines, I remember I got the shot and I had the sore arm and everything that you get from the flu shot. But then, like that night, and it was after I'd seen my girlfriend and I had gone home that night, and like towards the middle of the night, like before I went to bed, I started getting like chills and not feeling well, and I was like started losing my shit. I just spent like the weekend with my girlfriend, and I was like, and I have COVID now. She's like, I had to convince myself not to call her at 3 a.m. and freak her out. I mean, to see how I'm feeling in the morning, and it took me till the morning to remember, I got shot.
Okay, so I just gotta say, I really am starting to lose hope that we'll ever beat this disease, because we got this new variant now. Every few months there's another variant. People still aren't really taking it that seriously. And the thing is, I used to naively believe that viruses get less deadly over time because they evolve to not, kill all of their hosts, which would kill the virus. It's the only reason like the plague didn't like spread to all corners of the world, because it burned through so many of its European hosts in no time. But no,
well, you see,
viruses,
we're killing off all the weak ones, and all that's left are the bad ones.
But listen, it's like no, it's the opposite. Viruses become more effective at spreading not just between people but throughout the host if they're allowed to keep mutating. So I'm worried that one of these days there is going to come along a variant that just kills like 90% of people, and then we're done.
Well, see, the thing is, so thankfully, so far, it seems that most of the people that are getting sick and dying now are the unvaccinated, which is bad for the third world where people don't have access. But in this country where people have the access and spit on it, fuck them.
Yeah,
but the problem
that's exactly
is
my attitude.
Yeah, but the problem is the variants.
Well, no, and the problem is that those unvaccinated people, okay, so I am a respiratory therapist, like I have been working with this front line, is that those people, they get sick, they get very sick, and then they stay in our ICUs for like several weeks at a time. Like my hospital has like 11 ICU beds, and then for a while though, like 5 of them were COVID patients. Under normal circumstances, those are all filled with just like other patients. So we were having to transfer patients to other hospitals, like away from their families, because we were just like stuck with all these COVID patients. Like those COVID patients getting sick and dying is not just negatively affecting them.
True.
Like it's a huge strain on
COVID.
resources, and then it's exposing me, it's exposing all my coworkers, it's making it harder. Like it just makes everything harder, like even for people who are fully vaccinated there for like completely unrelated reasons. Like
that's why I stay home.
And they don't care.
They don't
not
care.
only that, when people who are unvaccinated, when they get COVID, first of all, they spread it more easily than those who get a breakthrough case. Right. But also, if they do recover, then
they're all like,
just I don't need it. But also that that increases the chances of further mutations.
Sure.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so they're fuck them. But at the same time,
well, I don't want anyone. I don't want anyone to get it. But my thing is that if I'm just, I guess I'm I don't want people to get breakthrough cases, and I don't want people who can't get vaccinated to get it, because there are some people who legitimately can't. Yeah. But it's kind of like, I'm just glad that I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. But if it's going to, I'd rather have it to the obstinate assholes who don't care about other people. But the one hell of it for me about getting sick, about getting the flu, is I did get my flu shot this year when I was at the doctor, and I'm like, damn it! Of course, I would get the one wacky strain that wasn't in the vaccination for this year.
What I'm saying though is I'm afraid that one of these days, could be a few years from now, maybe 10 years from now, if we're still fighting variants of this disease, I'm worried that this is going to mutate into some super bug that's just going to kill most people, whether they're vaccinated or not, and that's it. That'll be the end of our story.
Well, that's a possibility.
We had a good run.
Look at Ebola. Like it doesn't spread because it kills too quickly. So there's a balance.
There's a balance there, but
all you need to combat that is something with a long incubation period, COVID, that also has a heavy fatality rate.
It has to do with basically how fast is the mutation rate. So if the mutation rate's really fast, then the likelihood of it, and that's something I said like a year ago, that if it turns out that either it mutates too fast, or that the vaccination protection doesn't last forever, and it's and you have to keep taking boosters, and not everyone's going to get them because of supply, it could end up being a planet killer.
Yeah. Or imagine if there was a viral load that was transmissible by air that shared the same fatality rate and incubation periods of something like HIV.
Yeah.
Airborne rabies. Airborne rabies is like my nightmare. Like something like because rabies has a pretty much 100% fatality rate once you're infected with it. Like, and the only like saving grace with rabies is that it's like, if you don't get bit by someone with it, then you're probably not going to get it. But airborne rabies keeps me up at night.
Yeah, that is scary because I guess like if you get the shots like immediately, you can survive, but if it doesn't get treated, if it doesn't get treated within a certain time frame, you're going to die. You're going.
You are going to die. Yeah.
Rabies. Or hell, 28 days later, or something like that. Isaiah, you're
hand up. Yeah.
So I guess like on a positive note, so I'm gonna put a train track around my Christmas tree this year.
I know somebody else is doing that.
Amtrak, nice. That's a good model of a train, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, it's HO, and I also got this movie the other day. So if you got VHS people.
Okay. Yes, a 90s movie about like two 12-year-old girls and like what they were doing, like investigating like a crime or something like that. I forgot. You showed you showed it off at like a Such Just Alchemy like last week or something like that, and John Brockman like look it up.
That made me think it was Night of the Comet for some reason. See, here's one question for, I don't know, I think we're mostly non-believers here, but there may be some believers here. But for non-believers, I found that ever since I recognized myself as a non-believer, I have a much harder time getting into Christmas mood.
Yeah, same here. It's like
I don't, because I just think it's not real. So I mean, Christmas is mostly a capitalist holiday anyway.
Sure,
yes,
sure.
Exactly.
But that's the other thing too, is like my wife and I, because we already have pretty much what we need. Like, if I want something, unless it's like super expensive, I just go get it. So the idea of exchanging gifts, and I never liked the idea of consumption on command anyway. Someone says, hey, go out and spend money. So like if we do anything, we'll do something for the house. We'll have a handyman come in and fix something in the house or whatever. Maybe small gifts. So it's like, so if there's not the anticipation of what you're going to get or what you're going to give, and you don't have the religious thing, it's kind of like, I just have a hard time getting into the mood,
Actually, for me, what I've like done now for the past couple of years, like, well, if everyone interacts with me long enough, they know that like I think a mini essay. So I write out. So we usually like exchange wish lists to our family, so that like no, this is what we actually want. Here, you can pick an off of here. But now what I'm started doing, I still kind of like give it out there, but it's also like it's Amazon or like Steam, so like they can if they have the links from the previous emails, they can easily find it again if they want to. But then what I've been saying to people is on that line, it's like don't give me anything because I really want it. It's either super expensive thing like a new computer, or it's like something that like I can buy on my own when I want it, or wait for it for themselves. But also what I've been doing now is I'm telling people, don't give me anything. If you're going to spend money for me, instead give it to Joanna Roberts or give it to like a Phoenix, and here's their PayPal links and something like that, because like that's what I'm doing. Thankfully, my mom actually did last time for my
which is the proper Marxist thing to do.
Yes. Proper social
which I'll say, even though obviously we disagree a lot politically on that kind of score, but I respect that you're living your beliefs. Because what I despise of anybody, any political beliefs, then they claim XYZ elemental P, whatever it is they claim to believe, and they don't live that way at all. So they're just like full of crap. So when people live up to it, I respect that.
Reminder of charity links down in the description.
I know one of the things that gets on my nerves that thankfully I don't encounter very often, but every once in a while, like someone will ask me like, oh, what do you want for Christmas? And I'll say, oh, nothing. And they won't just let it go. I'm just like, no, I'm not just trying to be like self-effacing or whatever. Like, oh, don't get, I'm like, no, I literally don't want you to get me anything. I don't want anything.
Something to feel good about
there is this part of Persian culture. It's called tarof. It's this word, and it is this extreme form of politeness, where if somebody like compliments a painting on your wall, like you're obligated to be like, oh, you take it. It is yours. It looks trash here.
Oh, God.
And actually, David Graeber brings this up in the first chapter of his book, Death Deferred 5,000 Years. And like there is, but some people have said, no, there's a way to get around that. It's like, oh, you like this like bracelet like that? Thanks. It's a gift.
Oh, wait. Did you ever see the movie Red Heat?
No, I don't think I have.
So that's Schwarzenegger and Belushi, isn't it?
Yeah, Jim Belushi. Yeah. So that near the end of the movie, Jim Belushi's character, he says, just as a gift, he's got this, I don't know if it's a Rolex, but he has some really fancy, expensive watch, and he gives it to Schwarzenegger's character. So Schwarzenegger gives him his watch, and he's like, oh, this is really a $10 East German watch, and he gave away this like $1,000 watch,
That's what you get for being nice.
Dude, one thing, even though I've missed the hangouts for the last several months, but I did get to hang out with Steve 2 months ago.
Yes, in person.
in person. That was fun.
I know. I saw. I was
jealous. Everybody be jealous.
And the thing is, Steve, you know, I showed you my moves. While I was traveling to go see Steve, I went and stopped and got gas. And coming out of the gas station, I fell off the curb and damaged myself pretty seriously. And you know, there's still, you know, it still hasn't healed up on the elbow. And the pain in my ribs has stopped. I got to get my liver checked out because I somehow landed on my abdomen. I don't know how I fell with my arms back and bent, whatever, but I fell on my abdomen. I still don't quite feel right.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
I did see your post about like you were driving back up to where you live, and I live in Philly, so I was like, but I saw it after like several hours, and I was gonna be like, oh, I could have like reached out, but
But anyway, Isaiah, your hand's been up for a while.
Yeah, I was just like, you know, like living by like your beliefs, and I've definitely met liberals who have like state that they like, you know, they support these certain causes, but then like when I would like tell them like my story, they would just say I'm making excuses, like, you know, like it's like they'll be empathetic here, but then when I like explain, you know, my life story, my circumstances, they're just saying, oh, you're just complaining, you know, I worked 15 years at a job I didn't like, and you know, now look where I'm at. It's, you know.
Well, you know, I see racial bigotry because there's racial bigotry. I mean, was way more on the right wing, but there's some on the left. Yeah. And it manifests. It's kind of like that too, the way it manifests. People on the right wing, when they're bigoted, they tend to like hate the group, but they may actually have a black friend. That's the irony, or our Hispanic friend, or a Muslim friend, or whatever. But there are a lot of liberals who like they're not bigoted in the broad sense. But if you say, well, do you have any, you know, people of color as friends? And you're like, no, like, do you know any that you could be friends with? Yes. And so it's just like, they tend to, you know, it's like, well, so they're not bigoted in the broad sense, but they're bigoted in the narrow sense. And it's kind of bizarre sometimes.
Or of course, like I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I was allowed to. Or there's an African-American man that's like threatening me.
Yeah.
Like for example, like I was like telling this person that I was having a difficult time living in Tallahassee because you know, I didn't really
Tallahassee.
Say no more.
You just spoke volumes saying that one word, Tallahassee.
Right.
Look, so I live in Northwest Georgia. I don't want to hear
it. You know, and she was like saying, you know, well, you have to go out and see the city if you know this. You want to move, but you have to go out and see the city. It's like,
oh, not if I can plan it.
Well, no, I mean, I have to work weird hours. I don't have a car, so I got to walk home at night. You know, and I don't. You know, and you know, I work Monday through Saturday, and then on Sunday I just want to stay home. I don't want to go through shit with the bus or anything. And then she'll say, well,
yeah, we all have the same 24 hours kind of bullshit there. It's like, well, if you have like a car and like a job that doesn't leave you absolutely exhausted and time off, then of course you can do that kind of thing.
But, exactly.
Well, and I'd be like, why the fuck?
24 hours are the same.
Also, why do you want to see Tallahassee?
Well, I mean, I'd be like, why the fuck do you care so much whether I go out or not? Leave me the fuck alone.
Like, and also, I don't want to is a reason.
Yeah,
yes. right.
That's all the reason I need. Because I don't want to.
Even if I could, I don't want to. It's there you go. That's my reason. I don't want to.
It's like I live in the racist ass peninsula in Florida, and so, or even I should say, even more racist ass peninsula of Florida, and I don't want to fuck around.
Exactly.
Also.
Your hand.
Yeah, also, there's the thing is, well, like growing up, my not necessarily my mom, because my mom also played video games too, but like my best friend's mom would say, "Oh, it's nice outside. Go outside, play." I don't want to play outside. I can't bring the Nintendo Entertainment System outside and play Mario. No, I can't bring the computer outside and play Diablo. No, I want to stay indoors.
I don't like. Exactly. Yeah, I don't like outside.
Hey, we built inside for a reason.
I burn inside and I'm allergic to grass too.
It's not I don't want to go out. It's the fact that I just don't have the time. And by you saying that, and because I want to get a better job and move to a different city, and by you saying, well, you're just complaining, you're just making excuses. Tallahassee is the best city in the world. It's like, no, I've been here for 30 years. Fuck you.
Tallahassee is the best city in the world. Are you serious?
Objectively false.
All those statements were demonstrably false.
This is what it looks like here today.
I've been to New York, Chicago, and London. London, I'm sure Tallahassee is not the best city.
Yeah, like,
But
I mean, I've never been to Tokyo, but I'm pretty sure it's nicer than fucking Tallahassee.
It's like
I'm just gonna
30
throw that
miles
out.
south of here. It's
Isn't
like
that pretty?
it's the woods. It's the sticks.
I went walking up this road just before the call.
That's actually a beautiful
No,
shot.
we don't even have a bus to our own airport. We're the capital of the fourth largest state.
Wow.
We don't even have a bus route to our airport.
That is actually something about this. But another thing is, like, sometimes, like, when people are terminated online, people will say, "Oh, go outside and touch grass." But like, this also ties to like, you're not trying hard enough. That it's an ableist thing as well.
Our ancestors built shelters so we didn't have to be in the elements, and then people go out and camp on purpose. I don't understand.
I can't explain about the camping thing. Again, I'm allergic to grass, the bird, and the sun. But like, but people can. But some people do feel physically tired and just like doing like 4 hours of work or like 8 hours of work. So it's a kind of like an ableist thing to tell someone that you're not trying hard enough when they have fibromyalgia or they like have like rheumatoid arthritis or something else that like you don't see it, or even if you do see it, you do see them with a walker. But like, oh, you're too young for a walker, as it were, or this is what Phoenix has got from their family. If you're using a walker all the time, aren't you just like giving up?
Well, like I'm really fat and I have bad knees. I don't want to go anywhere.
I mean, if you get a screwdriver to take a screw out, are you giving up? Like you need a tool. There are some times when you need a specific tool to help you get where you need to go. Like if you can't walk on your own, but you can walk with the assistance of a walker.
Okay, I think we had just enough time for Lauren and Madeline to say,
and then to wrap up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Steve, I was curious. Have you ever seen Let It Be, the movie?
A long time ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I ask is because last night I watched part 1 of the Beatles Get Back. It is a way different view. I think, first of all, Jackson is a stinking genius as it comes to editing. The editing job is utterly first class. It's a completely different sense of what's going on from Let It Be, which to me was almost a total downer. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I also think it's more realistic because you can see, what's going on with it, but you can see better the dynamic that's going on between John, Paul, George, and Ringo. You can see, George's departure coming. You can feel it, but you also get a better sense of the roles that each of these guys is taking in the process of the whole thing. And part of my being an advertisement for the Beatles Get Back. But I mean, I can't wait to see part 2.
Well, is it like using real footage from way back then?
This is footage that they have this studio that they set up. They were going to rehearse. They're literally trying to learn 14 songs in 2 weeks, and some of them they're writing on the fly.
And this is a video of the actual Beatles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's documentary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. There's stock footage and there's archive footage and some of that. But in the large portion, it's the 4 guys in the studio, plus, some friends here and there. And of course, Yoko's there and a couple of friends of George are in there and Linda Eastwood is there. But it is absolutely the real deal. Jackson is not pulling any fast ones here at all. 2 words, see it.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. Madeline, did you have something before we wrap up?
It was mostly related back to that the conversation we were having before about ableism, because like one of the things that I spend time doing at work is convincing people to use the home oxygen that they need, and everyone has a lot, like so many people are like, oh, I don't want to be dependent on it, I don't want to, like, they're in it, like I have to sit down and explain to them, like, no, you're like, that's not how this works. This is just a treatment that's going to prevent your heart from giving out. Like, and I really feel like if we eliminated some of these like things about like using mobility aids as giving up or whatever, then I wouldn't be having to have this conversation to convince people to wear life-saving oxygen.
I mean, they don't seem to understand that we're all dependent on oxygen.
Yeah, some people need a little bit more. Some people need a little bit more oxygen, right? But it's like, it's so heartbreaking to have these conversations with people.
It's like, see this O2 sat number? It should be this. This is yours.
Yeah, when it's 85, like you're not going to be like you're not making yourself stronger by sitting there with SATs of 85. You're just going to be increasing your risk of a heart attack. I don't want you to come in like as like in cardiac arrest because of this. And then it breaks my heart. And ableism just affects so many people in so many ways that like I don't think that I was really aware of before I started working in healthcare.
Yeah, you can't muscle through a low O2 set.
No, you can't. That's not how that works.
Kick it off. Okay, Isaiah and Joe both have their hands up. I'll get to both of you guys, and then I'm ending the show. So nobody raise your hand from now on. So Isaiah, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what Madeline said, it's like, you know, because I have autism, and some of this ableism stuff kind of like goes above my head, and I didn't know she was being ableist and also white-splaining. Because a lot of white-splaining and ableism go hand in hand. So like that completely went over my head, and it wasn't like until like random Geek and Lido Anor like explain to me what that was, because I didn't know what that was. I thought she was just being an asshole.
Well, that's also
true. I wish you was here more
potato, you know.
Yeah, Joe.
Also, piggybacking off of what she just said, it's also really bad in mental health for similar reasons. There are so many people who come back time and time again, and each time it's you like no, when you get out of here, please keep taking your medicine. The last time you were in here, it was because you were awake for 5 days and thought it was a good idea to punch random people. You gotta keep taking your medicine. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep seeing you again, and it's awful every time.
Wow. I feel better, so I can stop taking my medicine, right? No. You feel better because you've been taking your medicine.
Exactly.
With puffers, like asthmatics with their puffers. I stopped having asthma attacks, so I stopped taking it. Now you're back with an asthma attack.
I'll close with this because you just reminded me. All this talk about not just like the ableist attitudes and, you know, not wanting to accept help and not wanting to, you know, not wanting to follow doctors' instructions. Everybody knows I'm a wrestling fan. And, you know, John Cena was a big wrestling star for years and years. Now he's mostly transitioned into being an actor. But there was a lot about John Cena where it seemed like this guy was just too good to be true. Like he was too clean cut. He didn't have any skeletons in his closet. He was just the nice. I mean, he's a total company man. So, but other than that, you know, he's just like, oh, a nice guy, right? One of the only times I've ever been legitimately mad at John Cena was when he went on, he was giving an interview after he had been injured and he had missed like a lot of time for an injury because he'd hurt his arm. I think he had like a torn bicep or something. And he was talking about how he got surgery on his arm to fix his bicep. And the doctor said, okay, like just don't do anything for like a month. Like just let it heal. Don't lift anything heavy. Don't work out. Just take it easy for a month, okay? And then we'll come back and reevaluate. And John Cena said, so like the next day I was in the gym working with a resistance band because I know my body and I know what I'm capable of. And I just thought, you fucking idiot. Like, I mean, it worked out fine. He didn't hurt himself again or whatever, but it's like, God, you're a fucking idiot, John. Like
that wait. In defense of John Cena, what he didn't say is, I made sure and I told my doctor, here's what I plan to do, and the doctor gave me a note that said it's okay. If he didn't include that, and everybody else hated him for it, you know, that's not fair. Because let me tell you, when your doctor says, okay, so 2 weeks off of work, and 2 days later you feel okay, and you say, like, look, my work doesn't have me doing a lot of things that's going to make my injury worse, and the doctor gives you a note, then it's okay.
Okay, I agree with you, but let's just put this out. I mean, you going back to school after breaking your leg is a little different from like, because you were, I'm pretty sure you weren't putting weight on the bad leg. This would be like if you said, I can walk.
I can jog 50 miles now.
It's just a resistance band. Maybe the doctor said, okay, you can, it's okay to move your arm.
I just felt it was irresponsible for famous wrestler John Cena to be on camera saying like, yeah, there was this one time where I totally disregarded my doctor's orders after a serious injury, and it was completely fine.
That was irresponsible of him because that perpetuates the idea that you can ignore it and not have a note.
Which
it's different when you're working with physio versus when you're just like, oh, let me just go to the gym and like.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why there's all these people that are like, oh, I don't need a COVID vaccination, or I don't need to wear a mask because I'll just muscle through it, and
well, I hope you don't kill too many other people before you die.
Yeah, and they'll muscle their way right into an ICU.
Exactly.
And
on top of that, like
into my arms.
Sometimes when it comes to like medicine for like your depression, sometimes the act of getting the medicine is just as grueling as you being depressed, because I had to take like 3 buses just to see my therapist on the other side of town. Then I had to take a bus to get my medication. And by the time I'm either to the therapist or at my medication, I'm more depressed than I was before I left my house. So,
ouch.
Jesus. Well, on that happy note, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to everybody for joining me here. Everybody who's here with me is a supporter of mine, so I thank you all for your continued support. I couldn't do this without you. Hope everybody who celebrated it had a good Thanksgiving, and we'll be back to do this next month. Don't forget about the charity links that are linked in the description.
I'm posting my YouTube channel in the chat.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
it's already in there in the chat. It's up there.
Oh yeah, Geek already put it in there. Okay,
I put in everyone's like plugs that I know.
Yeah, so yeah, everybody's plugs are in the chat. Thanks to my unofficial producer, Some Random Geek. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for joining me, and we'll see you for another one of these in a month.
And I'm 29 years old.
Steve,